Check the description for the following discount codes. This review feels a little bit weird because what I'm essentially doing is already talking about things that I've reviewed in quite good detail. The wheelbase itself here is just the same as the CSL DD, which is PC only. This is just a variant that supports consoles as well as PC. If you throw a Xbox compatible wheel on here, it works with the Xbox. It comes, of course, with the Gran Turismo PlayStation wheel, so PlayStation compatibility, but equally so it works on the PC if you plug it in as well. So the wheelbase is a great little wheelbase, you know, that's already been covered many times, but I'll just briefly, you know, go over its specs. It comes with a 5 Newton meter power supply. Well, the power supply is not Newton meters, but that this provides enough power for the wheelbase to put out 5 Newton meters of torque. If you buy the upgraded power supply, it will do 8 Newton meters of torque. It's a very smooth, very responsive, very detailed, entry-level direct drive wheelbase. And for most people, this could even be the last wheelbase you ever buy. For people that don't want to go balls deep in the hobby and spend over £1,000 plus on just a wheelbase, this will see you just fine. So all you console users out there that have been waiting for this, you're going to be more than happy. It is a great wheelbase. The aesthetics, it does look slightly different to the CSL DD. We've got this sort of blue ring at the back here, and the actual shell is a slightly different shape, and we're missing the data out port on the back as well, although that isn't used as far as I can tell so far, even on the PC. But otherwise you've got 2 shifter inputs, a pedal input and a handbrake input on the back, along with your power socket and your USB-C port. And then on the underside, you've got your 3 slots here for your 3 T-nuts that you would use to secure this to your sim rig, or you would use it with the table clamp, and that has like a channel here and a channel here, and then this piece here, and they slot in just in the same fashion as your T-nuts would do. In fact, if I slot that one in the middle first and then put these over the top, will I be able to slot that in pretty straightforward? No, I won't. Oh, no, put that in there first even. Put that in like that. Then try and slot it in, Cole. That should work. Fingers crossed. Yeah, there we go. So that just slots on like that. And then you would get the top half of the clamp and your bolt, I suppose you might want to call it. This just goes into here like that. And you would then simply screw it together and tighten it up according to, you know, how big a gap, how fat your table is going in there. There is an additional cap, you might call it, that can go on the top there to give you a bit of extra torque to really cinch it down tight if you wanted to, and you probably would do. Because if you are using this on a desk, you want it to be as solid as it can be. And to be honest, this clamp, sorry, it's noisy. That clamp is more than solid enough to hold this on a desk. It will be the desk, if anything, that wobbles around. So that works just fine. Oh, we got the power button at the front here as well. Again, very similar to the CSL DD review. Now, if you've got multiple consoles, PlayStation, Xbox, and maybe you've got a PC as well, you would use that power button to cycle between each of the modes, depending what you wanted to plug this into. There's also then compatibility modes for older racing titles that obviously won't support the CSL DD because they came out long before it. And if you use those compatibility modes, again, just cycling using the power button, it will show up as a ColourPort version 2.5, if I remember correctly, which of course is quite an old wheelbase, and a lot of the older titles will know what that is. And this is especially important for consoles. On PCs, we can pretty much map anything to anything and use anything with any sim. But on console, the games do need to support the peripherals. So having that compatibility mode is super important. And for those of you that have got some old sim titles that you absolutely love, you're still going to be able to use it, which is a right plus. So that's the wheelbase. Decent. Nothing more to be said about it. Works really well. Very smooth, very detailed, very responsive. It just lacks the power of a big boy direct drive wheelbase. And even using the 5 Newton meter power supply, or the power supply that allows 5 Newton meters, it's still all of those things, just with less power again. You know, and yes, you can live without the more powerful boost pack, but it is nicer to have it if you can afford it. In fact, let's have a quick chat about the price of this. This entry-level package I have here, which is the wheelbase, the wheel, and then a pair of the entry-level CSL pedals, comes in at €699.95. So 700 euros, for example. That's the entry-level model. If you want the one with the more powerful power supply to give you 8 Newton meters of torque, it's 850 euros. And if you want the DD Pro Premium bundle that comes with the 8 Newton meter power supply and a load cell brake pedal, then it's 970 euros. So that's your 3 different price points. Now, one thing I will say is, let's just move this wheelbase out of the way. The load cell brake pedal upgrade for these is a complete night and day difference to the brake pedal that comes on these as standard. You can put these wherever you want, by the way, just adjusting. You undo the 4 bolts for each pedal and you move it in and out. I've just put, this is how they come packaged, and that's how I've put them back, because they're back in the box. I actually moved them in one each for my testing. And you'll see a little clip of me using this at some point in this video anyway. But yeah, here's the little tool it comes with as well. It's just like a Torx, I was going to say Allen key. It's not an Allen key, that would be an Allen key. A Torx key then perhaps, just comes with that, and you can undo your 4 bolts and move these side to side. Again, these are the CSL pedals that I've reviewed independently on their own. So, you know, there's not much to be said about these. For 70 euros or 80 euros, whatever these are to buy, you know, on their own, they're a dirt cheap entry-level pedal set, and they're all metal construction, aside from the plastic face plates, which you can actually change for metal ones for an extra 20, 25 euros maybe. They do look a lot nicer, I must admit. I have got them as well. And they, you know, these function just fine. How they'll wear being plastic, I don't know. Maybe if you wear hard shoes, maybe they'll eventually wear out. But if you're a sock wearer or barefoot, you're going to have no problem at all with these. They're Hall effect sensors, so you've got no mechanical parts to wear out there, and they do feel very, very smooth in operation, and opposed to the Thrustmaster pedals that I reviewed, the TLCMs. Because of the spring location on these, the spring is like down here, almost like a hinge, a sprung hinge, and the way that feels is so much smoother than the way the Thrustmaster pedals feel, where you're actually compressing a coil spring. 2 very different setups, and these feel much, much nicer. The brake pedal is, as you would expect for, you know, an 80 euro pedal set. It's just a spring, again, hinge spring at the bottom, and then there's a rubber in there that you may or may not be able to see, that gets compressed and hardens up. And as it hardens up toward the end of its travel, you know, it's supposed to simulate a brake pedal hardening up. The reality of that is it's still very soft, even when it does harden up. And that's why I say, you know, the load cell pedal upgrade for these is a night and day difference. And I would choose that load cell pedal upgrade over buying the more beefy power supply to run your 8 Newton meters. If you could only do one, I'd go with the load cell brake pedal. Excuse me, because that makes the biggest difference. It then also allows you to use this one as a clutch should you want to. So yeah, you know, not really much to these to speak about. You've got a wire joining the 2 together, and there's a socket on the side here that you can plug either your load cell pedal into if you do get one, or that's where you plug the RJ12 cable that then goes into the wheelbase into. And one thing I always forget to do when I'm reviewing bloody Fanatec pedals is to plug my RJ12 cable in first. You really should do that, because once these are bolted down, I've always got a bit of sim rig in the way here, and I have to dick about for ages fiddling around trying to get that RJ12 cable in, because I'll never just give in and undo the 4 bolts to get it out again, because you have this slightly fiddly scenario at the front here where you've got these sort of captive threads, but you have to use spacers on top of those to make the whole thing sit flush with your sim rig. And I'll show you one of those spacers, a little thing like this. It literally just slides over here, but because it slides over there, it can move around. And so when you're trying to put these on your sim rig, they always fall out. So it's really fiddly to get these back in. So when I fit them and realise I haven't plugged the cable in, I just don't want to undo all this again. So I always dick about and manage to eventually plug it in with it in position. But they just bolt down, they bolted straight down to the playseat trophy, which is what I tested them on. I mean, like I say, I've already tested these pedals anyway, and the same goes for the wheelbase. But they just bolted straight down, the bolt holes all lined up, there was no issue there. There's your T-nuts, in fact. I'll just grab one out to show you. Just a little T-nut that slots in the, in the wheelbase, just like the table clamp did, slots in like that. So you could have a 3 configuration, you could use 4, it comes with 4. You could even just use 2 if you absolutely needed to. I've tested the CSL DD, bolted down with just 2, and that was fine. I think I did that on the Playseat Challenge, maybe. No problems, worked just fine. You know, it's always going to be better if you can cinch it down using all 4 or even 3, but 2 does work just fine. And what else do we get here? We've got, you know, your various USB or USB cable and your RJ12 cable come in the box as well there. And you also get some Fanatec stickers and a quick start guide as well. To be honest, the quick start guide, it's mostly just pictures and it isn't actually, I was about to say it isn't actually the clearest thing in the world, but it's clear enough. It's just, you know, sometimes it's easier if someone writes some text and says, take the 4 T-nuts, slide the 4 T-nuts in the slots, instead of like a picture of 3 slots and a hand and a floaty blue thing going in different places. Do you know what I mean? Sometimes it's just a bit easier to read text, but it's fine. It does exactly what it needs to do. There's nothing to worry about there. So that's the wheelbase, that's the pedals. You know, for the money we're talking here, 700 euros for the whole lot, it's a great deal because you can pay almost 700 euros for just a Fanatec steering wheel on its own. And for 700 euros, you're getting a steering wheel, which we're about to talk about, entry-level pedals and an entry-level direct drive wheelbase. And those pedals really can be made nice with that load cell upgrade. Now the steering wheel, this is the only thing that really does feel noticeably entry-level and sort of cheap. And it has to be because, like I just said, you can spend 700 euros on just a steering wheel from Fanatec. So to get the whole package, it's a good deal. They've got to save some money somewhere. This is, as far as I can tell, all plastic construction. And whilst it doesn't look too bad, it looks very similar to the Thrustmaster one, but again, because it is a licensed, pardon me, Gran Turismo product, I imagine it's going to. But yeah, everything is plastic. The buttons, the hat switches, you know, they all feel very cheap and very plasticky. Actually, apart from R2, L2, L3 and R3, they actually feel quite smooth and quite nice. The rest of the, oh actually, as do the small PlayStation buttons here. But everything else, you know, your 4-ways and that, all do feel very cheap and very plasticky, as does this sort of silver piece here. It isn't aluminium, it is just plastic, you know. And then we've got some sort of rubber, leather look material around the outside there. Again, it's very grippy. It certainly isn't going to slip out your hands, but you can tell it's on the cheaper side of things. And the same goes for the paddles at the rear. They function just fine. They haven't got a huge amount of travel, which is nice. So quick gear changes feel reasonably solid, but they are plasticky, of course, you know. And then finally, the quick release. In fact, I'll throw some footage up now of me testing this all out. You'll see the flex in the plastic quick release mechanism on this in this clip. It is quite pronounced, but you shouldn't ever be doing what you see me doing in this video clip with your wheel. You won't be bending it up and down. I was trying to loosen the wheel deck on the Playseat Trophy in that clip. So that isn't obviously how you would drive. It shouldn't really be a problem. And it wasn't a problem in use. But just to point out, you know, again, this is where they're saving the money to be able to give you this whole package for 700 euros as the entry level setup. Now, the other thing we've got in here, we have a rev sort of indicator at the top here, and a little LCD screen. The LCD screen not only shows you your gears in certain titles, but that's how you would go through your force feedback settings and other wheel settings on the fly. The other thing you can do with Fanatec products is literally whip this wheel off mid-game. So if you're playing a game where you might be in a GT3 car and then you're going into an F1 car or maybe into a rally car, you can, all within the same title, you can literally just pop the wheel off, throw a different one on, and it just works straight away. The Fanatec software notices a new wheel, the buttons map themselves correctly, and you can just then jump into that new car in the game, in the sim, and carry on with the correct wheel for the car you're driving. That is a nice touch, that sort of plug and play nature. And again, this is of course a wireless wheel like all the Fanatec wheels. There's no coiled up cord coming out that you plug in. That's a pet hate of mine on some direct drive wheel setups. You know, that sort of bungee cord hanging down. There's no need for that with the technology we have today. Literally no need at all. And every time I've used one of those, it would always get caught on something. I can't remember what wheelbase I was using now. I was at Race at Home up in Coventry and I was using one. I kept pulling it out the USB port because it was just getting caught on my hands or something as I was drifting around and just kept coming out. It was a right pain in the bum. But yeah, this is all wireless connectivity. Well, it's not really wireless. It's got some pins here, in fact, that connect. But it's wireless as in there's no cord dangling down like you would have seen on some other direct drive wheelbases. But yeah, my overall review of this is for €700, you're getting some good solid entry-level pedals that can be made really sweet with just a load cell upgrade. You're getting a perfectly usable steering wheel, albeit again entry-level and feels entry-level, and you're getting a really nice little entry-level direct drive wheelbase, but that is heavy and solid and well built and performs just as well as its bigger brothers, the DD1 and the DD2, just without the maximum torque. So, as always, there will be links in the description should you want to pick one up. And just to reiterate again, this will work on both Xbox, PlayStation and PC should you want to mix and match between your formats. So yeah, feel free to go ahead and pick one up. It gets a positive review from me, just like the CSL DD did as well. It's the same wheelbase, and just like these pedals did, the CSL pedals in their standalone review, for the money, €80 on their own and whatever they are with the load cell, they're a good set of pedals, and would be my choice at that price point. And this would certainly be my choice at this price point as well. Like I said, in fact, in my CSL DD review, if I had this, I probably wouldn't have upgraded to my DD1 because I don't run stupidly high torque settings. I would sort of say you get like 85–90% of the experience with this that you do one of the bigger ones. You just miss out on that maximum torque. Anyway, enough waffle. As always, thank you very much for watching and take it easy.